Hello. Have you ever stopped to think about how your intestines are functioning? Today, I'm going to share with you vitally important information about 7 warning signs that you must never ignore. I'm talking about bowel cancer, also known as colorectal cancer. And why is this so important for you? Because this is the 3rd most common type of cancer, responsible for approximately 10% of all cancer deaths. According to data from the National Cancer Institute, INCA, there are approximately 45,000 new cases estimated per year.
Therefore, this is a subject that deserves your full attention. In this complete video, I will divide the content into 2 strategic parts. In the first part, we will discuss in detail the 7 warning signs, those symptoms you can feel or observe that something is wrong with your intestines. In the second part, which is absolutely crucial, I will teach you practical prevention measures, habits you should adopt, and specific foods to significantly reduce your risk of developing this disease.
I will also clarify what intestinal polyps are, why they are important, how they evolve, and why colorectal cancer is increasing more and more in young people, those under 50 years old. This video is really comprehensive, so stay until the end. But before I start, I'm asking for a special favor. If this content is valuable to you, please like the video. Do you know why? The more people like it, the more YouTube distributes this video to people who don't have easy access to doctors or hospitals. Also, share it with your friends and family. Many lives can be saved with your help.
And tell me, do you know someone who had bowel cancer? The 7 warning signs. 7th sign, changes in bowel habits. Let's start with the 7th sign, and it's very important that you understand this completely. It's absolutely vital that you know your own normal bowel habits. Stop and think right now. How many times per day or per week do you have a bowel movement? Some people have the habit of going to the bathroom right after breakfast. Others 2 or 3 times a day. There are also those who have bowel movements 2 or 3 times a week.
All these patterns can be completely normal for each person individually. What's important here is detecting a change in your personal pattern. If you notice progressive changes in your bowel movements, pay attention and see a doctor. Isolated changes in bowel habits are not, by themselves, very alarming. But when these changes progress or persist, medical investigation is essential. Research shows that approximately 65% of people diagnosed with colorectal cancer reported having changes in their bowel habits.
These changes can vary significantly from person to person, depending on the location of the tumor, its size, and the stage of the disease. Your stools can change consistency or color. You may start going to the bathroom multiple times, or conversely, much less. The most common pattern is when a person starts alternating between episodes of diarrhea and constipation. Diarrhea may persist for more than a few days, with no relation to viruses or something you ate, followed by constipation, and then the diarrhea returns. This abnormal cycle is a definite sign to seek professional evaluation.
6th sign, blood in the stool. Now we arrive at the 6th sign, which is absolutely critical, blood in the stool. For this reason, it's extremely important that you pay very close attention to what you see when you go to the bathroom. Are you aware that the large intestine is divided into different parts? Let's start with the anatomy. We have the ascending colon on the right side, the transverse colon that runs horizontally, the descending colon on the left side, the sigmoid colon, and finally, the rectum and anus. Here's a crucial detail. The right side of the colon, the ascending colon, has a special characteristic. It's wider, and the stool arrives there still in liquid form. Why? Because one of the main functions of the colon is to absorb water from the stool. Therefore, if a tumor develops on this right side, we generally will not have symptoms of intestinal obstruction. However, the tumor can bleed more easily, causing anemia, or your stool may change color, becoming pitch black, a condition we call melena, which has a very foul and unpleasant odor. On the left side, in the descending colon and sigmoid colon, the situation is different. On this side, the colon is narrower and the stool arrives more formed. This is why when there's a tumor here, we frequently see more intense and visible bleeding, which can drip into the toilet or be seen when wiping with toilet paper. Now here's a critical point. Other things can cause blood in the stool. We can think of hemorrhoids, anal fissures, or even eating beets, which changes the color of your stool to red. But even so, it's absolutely crucial to confirm that it's not something serious. You must never simply assume it's bleeding hemorrhoids. Blood in the stool can occur in varying degrees, from small amounts of invisible blood to severe bleeding. Why does bleeding occur? Because the tumor may have ulcerated, rupturing a blood vessel that was supplying the tumor, or causing a wound in your intestine. Even when you strain hard to have a bowel movement, you can increase the pressure on your intestinal wall and cause additional bleeding. Let me be absolutely clear. Blood in the stool must be investigated. It doesn't necessarily mean you have colon cancer, but it's always the best procedure to check with a doctor. Fifth sign, persistent abdominal pain. Moving on to the fifth sign, abdominal pain. If you've never experienced abdominal pain before, and now you've started to feel intense cramps that don't go away, that come and go persistently, or even pain when having a bowel movement, especially pain that occurs when the tumor affects the rectum, you should seek medical help immediately. Now, I frequently hear the question, but couldn't it just be excess gas or a dietary change?
Or maybe I'm eating too much fiber suddenly. Yes, it could be. But if you haven't made any dietary changes and this pain doesn't go away even after a few days, see a doctor. Persistent and unexplained abdominal pain can be one of the symptoms of colorectal cancer and deserves professional investigation. Fourth sign, persistent fatigue and tiredness. The fourth sign is fatigue and tiredness. But let me be specific. I'm not talking about the normal tiredness because you slept poorly the night before. I'm talking about fatigue that lasts for weeks, even months on end.
It's that long-term exhaustion that doesn't improve with rest. In colorectal cancer, this fatigue usually results from hidden anemia. How does this happen? Well, as I mentioned, the tumor may be bleeding slowly and consistently, and you develop iron deficiency anemia. You might be eating well, have a balanced diet, but still develop iron deficiency anemia. When a person develops anemia with no apparent cause, one of the main causes to investigate is colorectal cancer. But there's another mechanism too. Cancer cells consume a lot of energy because they need it to divide rapidly.
This accelerated metabolism can cause extreme exhaustion. Furthermore, the tumor may be consuming your nutrients, decreasing your nutritional absorption capacity, contributing to chronic fatigue and general weakness. If you've experienced persistent fatigue for more than 2 weeks, don't ignore this symptom. Third sign, abdominal bloating and distension. The third sign is abdominal bloating, or that uncomfortable sensation of being swollen. This can be a relatively common symptom of colorectal cancer. Why? There are several reasons.
The tumor may be partially or completely obstructing the intestine, leading to a buildup of gas and fecal residue. Additionally, the tumor may be hindering the normal transit of food and liquids, which can also lead to abdominal bloating. This excess gas can cause cramping, abdominal pain, or even constant pain. Therefore, it's better not to neglect this symptom. It's true that many things can cause bloating and abdominal pain, but if you experience abnormal or frequent bloating that's outside your usual pattern, see a doctor for appropriate evaluation.
Second sign, unexplained weight loss. Now we come to the second sign, unexplained weight loss. Let me be very clear. If you're on a diet and have lost weight, that's completely normal and expected. But I'm talking about weight loss with no apparent reason. You weighed 70 kilos and now you weigh 65 or 63. And this occurred with no change in your eating habits, without depression, without additional physical exercise. Weight loss related to colorectal cancer can have several mechanisms.
First, the tumor can alter your ability to absorb nutrients and calories as if it were a parasite sucking everything from you. Second, the tumor can produce certain inflammatory mediators called cytokines, such as TNF-alpha and interleukins 1 and 6, which affect the hunger center in your brain, decreasing your appetite and making you lose weight. Third, the tumor increases energy expenditure throughout your entire body, making you lose both fat and muscle mass. Finally, the tumor can partially obstruct the intestine, causing frequent nausea and vomiting, which drastically reduces your food intake. If you've noticed significant and unexplained weight loss, this is an important sign to be investigated. First sign,
Sensation of incomplete evacuation, tenesmus. And now we arrive at the first and perhaps most disconcerting symptom, that sensation that your bowels haven't been completely emptied. In medicine, we call this tenesmus.
You go to the bathroom, have your bowel movement, feel that you're finished, but there's that persistent and uncomfortable sensation that something is still in there, something stuck, something that didn't come out completely. You feel like you need to go back to the bathroom. Let me explain this in detail. Tenesmus is that uncomfortable and persistent sensation of incomplete bowel evacuation, even after a complete bowel movement, even if there are no more stools to be evacuated. This is a very common characteristic of colorectal cancer. Why? Because the tumor may be partially or completely obstructing the intestine, creating the illusion that there are still stools present, when in reality, what's there is the tumor itself. In this specific case, there may also be a characteristic change in the shape of the stools. They become thin, ribbon, or string-shaped because the stools are passing through the middle of the tumor, creating this strange tape-like appearance. This is a very specific sign of colorectal cancer in the rectum or sigmoid colon.
Understanding polyps and risk factors. Critical information about early stages. But here's something very important you need to know. Many people with colorectal cancer have no symptoms in the early stages of the disease. Therefore, if you don't have symptoms, that does not mean you're safe. It's fundamental that you know your risk factors and evaluate whether you should have screening to check if you have polyps. What are intestinal polyps? So, what exactly are intestinal polyps?
Polyps are small projections that develop on the inner lining of the intestine, specifically and mainly in the colon and rectum. They can vary in size and shape. Here's the crucial detail. Most polyps are benign, but some have the potential to transform into colorectal cancer over time. Typically, it takes about 10 to 15 years for a polyp to transform into complete cancer if it's not detected and removed. This is hopeful information because it means we have a window of opportunity of 10 years or more to detect and remove these polyps before they become malignant.
Risk factors, unchangeable and modifiable. Now, let's discuss risk factors for colorectal cancer. There are two groups, factors you cannot change and factors that you can and should modify in your life. Unchangeable factors that you cannot change. First, age. As you get older, the risk of colorectal cancer increases significantly. With aging, our natural immune defenses become weaker, so a polyp that was dormant with low immunity can evolve into cancer. Second, chronic inflammatory bowel diseases, such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis.
Chronic intestinal inflammation significantly increases risk. Studies show that 1 in 5 people with ulcerative colitis has a chance of developing colorectal cancer in their lifetime. Third, hereditary genetic syndromes, such as Lynch syndrome, which strongly predisposes to colorectal cancer, or familial adenomatous polyposis, which causes the formation of multiple polyps. Here, I must also emphasize the importance of family history. If your father, mother, sibling, or someone close to you had colorectal cancer, you should be more concerned and seek screening earlier. Fourth, height.
Yes, taller people have an increased risk of colorectal cancer. This has been established in scientific research. Modifiable factors that you can change. Now we come to factors that you can control, and this is empowering. Cigarettes. Many people don't realize that cigarettes don't just increase the risk of lung cancer. They increase the risk of stomach cancer, intestinal cancer, mouth cancer, bladder cancer, and many other cancers. Alcohol. Excessive alcohol consumption also significantly increases risk. Sedentary lifestyle. You should exercise regularly. Lack of physical activity is a well-established risk factor. Obesity. Excess weight contributes to chronic inflammation and metabolic imbalances that promote abnormal cell growth. Inadequate diet. A diet low in fruits, vegetables, and fiber, especially rich in ultra-processed foods, increases risk. These ultra-processed foods contain many chemicals you can barely read on the package. They may increase the product's shelf life, but they reduce your health. Processed meats. Hamburgers, sausages, ham, bologna, bacon, hot dogs, processed meats in general. All contain high levels of sodium and nitrite and definitely increase your risk of colorectal cancer. Excessive red meat. You can eat red meat,
but you should avoid excess. Red meat and excessive saturated fat increase risk. Why cancer is increasing in young people. Now the crucial question. Why is colorectal cancer increasing in young people under 50 years old? Studies show that in 27 of 50 countries analyzed, there's a significant increase in young adults.
Some countries, such as Chile, New Zealand, Norway, and Puerto Rico, show an increase of 3 to 4% per year in this age group. The answer is simple and frightening: modern lifestyles. Incorrect eating habits, a lot of industrialized and ultra-processed food, very little real food. Widespread sedentary lifestyle, overweight, and obesity have increased dramatically. People started screening earlier, so they detect more cases. But the real culprit is the lifestyle change in younger generations. Protection strategies. 7 tips to protect your intestines. The 7th is the most important. So, how can you protect yourself? Here are 7 practical tips, and the 7th is absolutely the most important, so stay until the end. Tip 1. Drink plenty of water. First, drink plenty of water, especially filtered water. When you're well hydrated, your intestines work better. Water prevents constipation and reduces the time that stools and toxins are in contact with the colon lining. Water also helps move things through your digestive system more efficiently.
Tip 2. Eat fruits, vegetables, and fiber-rich foods. Eat plenty of fruits and vegetables that contain fiber and antioxidants. Fiber, like water, speeds up the movement of stools, reducing contact time with the intestinal lining. Fiber also improves your gut flora, the beneficial bacteria in your intestine that protect your health. Of course, you should also reduce your consumption of red meat. You can eat it, but avoid excess. Especially processed meats, which are high in sodium and nitrite, and definitely increase your risk of colorectal cancer.
Tip 3. Natural anti-inflammatory foods. Eat spices and foods that are natural anti-inflammatories, such as turmeric and cinnamon. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin that is a potent natural anti-inflammatory. Recent Italian research shows that curcumin significantly reduces inflammation in the intestines, contributing to intestinal barrier integrity. Cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar and improves digestion. You can use these spices in soups, broths, stir-fries, and many other dishes. Tip 4. Milk and dairy products. But you might be thinking, isn't milk inflammatory?
Well, the most recent scientific evidence indicates that milk is not inflammatory. In fact, there's robust research showing that milk and dairy products, such as yogurt and cheese, can protect you against colorectal cancer. Of course, if you have lactose intolerance or milk protein allergy, it's better to avoid. But in general, milk provides protection. Tip 5. Regular physical activity. Don't sit around. Exercise regularly.
Physical exercise improves intestinal function, regulates your hormones, such as insulin and estrogen, reduces inflammation throughout your body, helps you maintain a healthy weight, and reduces stress. All of this helps prevent cancer. Tip 6. Avoid alcohol and smoking. Avoid alcoholic beverages and stop smoking. These are well-established risk factors. Tip 7. Medical screening, the most important. And the 7th tip, which is absolutely the most important, have regular medical checkups.
At minimum, you should have a fecal occult blood test, which identifies traces of blood in your stool that you can't see with the naked eye. But if you're over 45 years old and at intermediate risk, it would be even more valuable to have a colonoscopy. Why 45 years old? Because the American Cancer Society lowered the recommended age for screening from 55 to 45 years for people at intermediate risk. For high risk, if there's someone in your family with colorectal cancer or you have Lynch syndrome, screening should start earlier.
The difference with colonoscopy compared to other screening methods is that you can discover a polyp and remove it before it becomes a tumor. Unlike a mammogram where you discover you already have cancer, with a colonoscopy, you discover before it becomes cancer, remove it, and you don't have the disease. How colonoscopy works. The preparation is the most annoying part of the exam. You have to clean your intestines completely. There can't be any fecal residue, so you'll take a laxative and go to the bathroom over and over until there's nothing left.
During the exam, you'll be sedated for your comfort, so you won't feel anything. The doctor inserts a thin, illuminated tube through your anus that has a camera at its tip to evaluate the rectum and colon. First, the doctor injects air through the tube so he can see better. If he finds a polyp, he'll remove it and send it for microscopic analysis. If there's a large tumor, he may do a biopsy to send for study. The entire colonoscopy takes 30 to 60 minutes. And let me emphasize again, colonoscopy is an important exam because it can detect the polyp before it becomes cancer.
The importance of early detection. Look at this important data. Countries with high rates of colorectal cancer that implemented screening tests managed to dramatically reduce their numbers, literally saving thousands of lives. This video is important for this reason. It's not to scare anyone. It's to raise awareness. It's important that more screening colonoscopies be performed in the public health system, not just for those who are feeling something, but for those who aren't feeling anything and want a long and healthy life. It can't be just for those who have health insurance or money to pay. This is something for managers to think about. A polyp that you detect before it becomes cancer will spare that person from suffering. Or if you detect the tumor in early stages, you avoid suffering such as chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, etc. Early detection puts the odds in your favor. If found in its early stages, colorectal cancer is 90%
Because the state and health plans will spend much less in the end. Early diagnosis of colorectal cancer increases the chances of successful treatment and full recovery. Conclusion. So don't wait. Take care of your intestinal health and keep your body healthy. Did you like this video? Remember to share so that more people have this vital knowledge. What will be the next video you're going to watch? I left 2 recommendations here on the screen for you. Thank you for watching until the end. Subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you don't miss important health content.
See you in the next video.